On June 11th of this year, I sat down in this chair and told you that JJK was coming back sooner than a lot of you anticipated. See, in that moment, we had no information about when the Culling Games was coming out, but I used the time charts and previous release dates of other seasons of JJK to extrapolate that we should be expecting an announcement of JJK's third season's release date in either late July or August. And as apparently JJK has a vested interest in me not losing face, just 2 days ago, on August 30th, they dropped the Culling Game's first real trailer. And with this first real trailer, we also got an announcement of the release date, which is January 2026. Yes, that's right, JJK is coming out alongside Freerun Season 2, the final season of Fire Force, and Hell's Paradise Season 2. I never expected to tell anybody to get excited for the wintertime, but get excited for the wintertime. Now, in that video I released back in June, my math did technically bring me to the conclusion that JJK's third season was going to be coming out in the fall 2025 season. You know, the one that starts in October. Because for as long as MAPPA has been making serious projects, they never dropped two major projects in the same season. And Hell's Paradise Season 2 has been slotted for January 2026 for months now. But it appears as though MAPPA's relatively light year in terms of animation, with really their only major projects being Chainsaw Man's Reze movie, Zenshu, Bachiguri, and Lazarus, that they have the animation and work capacity to release two major projects in the second season of Hell's Paradise and the third season of JJK simultaneously. But now that we know when this third season of JJK is coming out, what is it going to cover? Is it going to be 24 episodes long like every other season of JJK? Or is it going to be truncated, abbreviated, to try and split the Culling Game into multiple different seasons? Well, unfortunately, it's beginning to seem as though that's most likely our reality. See, conventional wisdom would tell you that this season of JJK is going to be 24 episodes long. And therefore, as it's going to be 24 episodes long, it should cover about 70 chapters of content, as the previous 48 episodes of JJK split over two 24-episode seasons has covered about 137 chapters of the manga, meaning that this season of JJK should probably end off somewhere in the region of chapter 210 of the manga. And as chapter 207 has literally a perfect stopping point, which is Kenjaku coming face to face with an old friend for the first time in hundreds, if not thousands of years, this idea that this season, the third season of JJK, is gonna cover about 70 chapters makes perfect sense, especially when you consider the fact that JJK itself is about 270 chapters long, which means that there would be just enough space for a 24 episode fourth final season. But there's a problem. See, because this season isn't just being called the Culling Games arc, it's being called the Culling Games arc Part 1, which rather justifiably has raised some eyebrows. See, the Culling Games arc is one of the longest arcs in all of JJK. In fact, it is the longest arc in JJK, totaling 63 manga chapters, 5 chapters longer than the Shibuya arc. And therefore, this idea that it may need to be broken into 2 separate seasons isn't that crazy of an idea. I mean, mind you, there's still 22 chapters of content between where season 2 of JJK's anime left off and the beginning of the Culling Games arc. And if JJK did run for 24 episodes and ended somewhere in the region of chapter 207, technically we still wouldn't be done with the Culling Games arc. So if this 24 episode season of anime ended somewhere around chapter 208, would we consider the beginning of the fourth and final season, which wraps up the last 15 or so chapters of the Culling Games arc, the second part of the Culling Game arc? Or is JJK priming us for something that a lot of other very popular anime have been doing recently, which is splitting their 24 episode seasons into cores? I mean, this is something that we're seeing time and time again nowadays with very popular anime. Sakamoto Days split its first season into 2 cores that released only a matter of months from each other. Dandadan did the same, dropping 12 episodes what felt like 6 months ago, and now once again being back. And Bleach has been doing some variation of this for years, splitting its TOIBW or 1000-Year Blood War arc into 4 cores. So is JJK shifting away from its 24 episode a season style to adopt the 12 episode 1 core at a time style being popularized by other major current anime? Or are they planning on sticking with the model that they've ran with for the past 5 years? Well, unfortunately, we don't really know. See, well, yes, we've been given a release date for the third season of JJK. We weren't told how many episodes it was gonna be. And as the Culling Games don't technically start until chapter 159, if JJK were to continue with its usual manga burn rate of about 2.8 chapters per episode of anime, there would pretty perfectly be about 8 episodes in the Yuji Extermination and Perfect Preparation narration arcs that lead up to the Culling Games arc. But if JJK does try to adopt this one core at a time model, this means we would really only get about 4 episodes into the Culling Games arc, which would be about 11 or so manga chapters. And thus we would end this 12 episode core 1 season around chapter 170 of the manga. And as the first 15 chapters or so of the Culling Game revolve around the Tokyo #1 Culling Games colony, the arc could technically end when the manga tries to switch over to the Sendai colony. But this feels like a weird place to stop at best. See, the problem with this core model is that sometimes you get seasons ending at really weird spots, like the ending of season 1 of Dandadan, which just ends with Okarun and Gigi staring into a hole filled with talismans. And while this didn't necessarily hinder the massive success of Dandadan, it did leave a weird taste in a lot of people's mouths. Now, fortunately, the beginning of season 2 of Dandadan has been nothing but a smash hit, but it's those kind of stumbles that, if they're stacked up one after another, can really derail an anime. Fortunately, however, there is a piece of primary literature that we can dive into to possibly glean clues about what we're going to be seeing in this upcoming season from JJK, and that would be the just over 1 minute long trailer we just got from Toho. So in order to answer this question of what's possibly going to be covered in this season and maybe how many episodes we're going to get, let's go ahead and watch that trailer right now to not only answer these lingering questions, but also to get a better grasp of what we're going to be seeing this season, what the vibes are going to be, how it's being directed, if anything's being added, and so on and so forth. And I'm aware I didn't do an intro, like the video, it followed the fourth wall. I don't know. You know what to do. Now, I want everyone to know here, I'm going to be stopping a lot. I'm trying to break down like literally every single frame of this trailer. So if you don't want that, I don't know. I guess this is the part of the video you hop off. But before we go any further, I want to talk to you about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the best time of year. And what time of year is that, you ask? Well, football season. The leaves are changing, the pads are clashing, and the pigskins are getting thrown. And the next big touchdown is on the horizon, and you can bet on it. See, whether you want your rookie running back to bust out a 100-yard game, your all-star quarterback to throw 3+ touchdowns, or your franchise kicker nut to bang an upright, all of these are things that you can bet on in the DraftKings Sportsbook. And whether you want to do same-day bets or live betting or set up an incredible parlay that you can share with your friends, DraftKings Sportsbook has got you covered. And there has absolutely never been a better time to download DraftKings Sportsbook than right now, as new customers who bet $5 are not only getting $300 in bonus bets immediately, but are also getting $200 off. Yes, $200 off YouTube's NFL Sunday Ticket. That is more than half off Sunday Ticket to make sure that you're enjoying the football you should be. And as somebody who's got multiple 12-hour appointments with my couch this fall, that money is probably getting put towards, well, probably most likely delivered food. But hey, at least it's feeding me. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook today. Use the link in my description or promo code WEEB to get to enjoying football in a whole new way. So this is probably going to be like one of the first things that we see in season 3 of JJK. Like, this might literally be the opening sequence. See, because this scene takes place pretty much immediately after we see season 2 end. Yuji has been ostracized from the Jujutsu Society. The higher-ups have put a kill order on him and put a binding vow on Yuta to be his executioner, all because Gojo has been sealed away in the prison realm, because Gojo is pretty much the only thing stopping the Jujutsu higher-ups from killing Yuji. See, they want to kill Yuji because they believe he's not only a risk to the world, on account of the fact that Sukuna can say, like, enchain and take over his body, but also because they believe by killing Yuji, they'll be able to get rid of a majority of Sukuna's power. And thus Yuji's kind of on the run from the most dangerous bounty hunter in the entire world, Yuta Okotsu. Outside of what's going on here plot-wise, I love that they're sticking with the polarizing color scheme that we saw a lot of in season 2. Like these saturated colors that fill up dark spaces. Like, it already looks very much like season 2, and it looks gorgeous. This sequence, I don't believe exists in the manga. And this is something you're going to see a lot throughout this trailer. There's a lot of sequences that don't appear in the manga. See, this sequence can come from one of two places. Either Yuji's battle against Yuta or the lead up to Yuji's battle against Yuta. See, like I've said multiple times, season 2 of JJK leaves off around chapter 137. And in the manga, Yuji talks with Chozo and battles against cursed spirits for like a chapter and a half until Yuta shows up. And then Yuji and Yuta battle for like, I kid you not, a chapter and a half. The entire Yuji extermination arc is very short. However, this trailer seems to hint at the fact that the anime is going to be extending this arc pretty substantially by A, not only increasing the amount of cursed spirits that Yuji's gonna have to battle against, but B, lengthening the battle between Yuji and Yuta. right, this is the skyscraper that Yuji is jumping out of. You can see all of his cursed energy flowing around the building. That's the color of his cursed energy. And Yuta is on his way to Yuji right now. So we're only like 2 or 3 chapters beyond where season 2 left off right now, and we're already 17 seconds into the trailer. So I can't say for certain, but I do believe this is the Zenin headquarters, or I guess like family domicile, because spending time with them or spending time with the Kama are pretty much the only times that we see these like old school style Japanese buildings. And like that makes a lot of sense because the Zenin clan play a massive part in the lead up to the Culling Games, whether that be the introduction of Naoya, who's introduced in chapter 138, I believe, or Maki's, we'll just say family reunion. But everything revolving around the Zenin clan gets wrapped up by chapter 153. So even showing this doesn't necessarily tell us anything about how long the season's gonna be. Wait, hold up. There was like 2 impact frames there, and I don't think I recognized either of them. I thought I saw that. I thought I saw a giant red hand. I have no idea what this could be. I have literally no idea what this could possibly pertain to. Naoya fights against a bunch of Zenin to try and become the head of the Zenin clan. None of them have a gigantification technique. This is why I'm saying I think there's going to be a lot of lengthening in this season. I think they're not going to be burning through as much manga. They're going to be making anime longer. And I think they're doing that to make this truncated / abbreviated season feel longer. Like by ripping through less manga content, by making things like the fights longer or possibly have more dialogue in them, they're able to make what could be like 6 episodes, 9, 10, 11, or 12 episodes. But yeah, if anybody has any idea what this giant red hand is, I guess let me know. This thing pops up a couple of times. I think it's supposed to be Rika, and I think you can tell that it's Rika because it's got Yuji in one of her hands. All right, so if you look right there, you can see a pink-haired thing right here. That's got to be Yuji. I don't know when Rika has ever taken this form. This is like very close to like Rika's true form that we see in JJK 0. But this could also just be some added massive cursed spirit that Yuji has to battle against in the lead up to his battle against Yuta. In either circumstance, this thing does not exist in the manga. And therefore either the battle of Yuji versus the cursed spirits is getting lengthened or Yuta versus Yuji is getting lengthened. But most likely both are. This right here is also going to be something that you see very, very early into season 3. I mean, this pretty much happens immediately after season 2 ends. Yuji is sitting on the stairs talking to Chozo about how he needs to isolate himself from all of his friends. And Chozo's like, well, at least you have me. Let's go kill some cursed spirits. So Yuji runs out into the middle of Tokyo, which has now been mostly abandoned because it's overrun by cursed spirits, does a big clap, and then a bunch of cursed spirits fly out of the water to battle against him. I believe this is going to be the beginning of almost an episode-long battle of Yuji versus the cursed spirits because they're trying to draw out the content that happens before Yuji has to fight against Yuta. Yeah, and then this right here, like everything we're being shown right now happens very, very soon after season 2 of JJK. I mean, Megumi and Yuji come face to face in chapter 143, only 6 chapters after the end of season 2 of JJK's anime. Now, mind you, by this point in the manga, Yuji and Yuta are already done fighting, which kind of puts into perspective just how short the Yuji extermination arc is. But still, by this point in the trailer, things are not looking good for you if you don't want an abbreviated season. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh, wow, they're in the star room. They're talking to Tengen. This must be super far from what we just saw, that scene with Megumi and Yuji. Nope, this is from chapter 144, the literal next chapter. This gaggle of weirdos right here, Maki, Yuta, Chozo, Yuki, Megumi, and Yuji, all go to visit Tengen at the star room. A, ask about the motives of Kenjaku, and B, try and get a way to open the prison rail. So as it currently stands, this trailer hasn't showed us anything even 10 chapters beyond where season 2 ends. But I will say, everything they've shown is absolutely gorgeous. It's kind of wild that they're going very computery with the star room here. Like they're in some kind of computer void. In the manga, when they're being rejected by Tengen because he's not sure what they're trying to accomplish by trying to find him, they're just kind of showed in a blank space. But this blank space being like the loading screen of Assassin's Creed as Ezio's trying to download his brain into Renaissance era Italy is a really cool but kind of weird directorial choice. But it appears as though, kind of like with season 2, they're letting the directors kind of adapt to the manga in an abstract way, which I very much appreciate. Jujutsu. Yeah, it's just Yuji's stab wound. Once again, this is a thing that we never see in the manga. Is it Rika? Is it some insane cursed spirit? I have no idea. This right here is the introduction of Yuta. Naoya shows up first. We're now moving backwards chronologically. That's just the next scene after all the dust clears. Yuta appears in it after destroying what he landed on. Yeah, that's all just Yuta versus Yuji. It's a lot of Yuta versus Yuji.
あいつの力が大きくなってるのを感じる。
This right here, that's the tower from earlier that Yuta was walking across on his way to get to Yuji, so we're moving even further back chronologically.
スクナが伏黒で何か企んでる。悪いけどまだ死ぬわけにはいかねえんだ。
As you can see, we're hammering a lot of Yuta versus Yuji, which is really not encouraging for anybody who wants this to be a 24-episode season. Okay, so this right here is the back of the prison realm. I mean, this is also from chapter 144 when that gaggle of weirdos is having their conversation with Tengen. Don't love how that looks. That looks a certain way, and I'm not going to say exactly what it looks like, but you know if you have a broken brain like me, and if you're watching this, you probably do. See a flash of Kenjaku here because Tengen's actually the person who tells that gaggle of weirdos what Kenjaku is. So actually, rather interestingly, this entire scene is added. Yuji and Yuta never fight inside of a theater. So this right here is definitive proof that that fight will be lengthened, and by the looks of it, rather substantially. This also never happens. There's never a moment where Yuji is holding on to Yuta's blade. It's also rather interesting that Yuta is saying we're done talking because in the manga there is very little conversation between Yuji and Yuta because, you know, like I said, the fight is a chapter and a half long. This is Naoya versus Chozo, which looks like it's taking place in the same place it does in the manga. It does look heavily stylized. Any fight with Chozo ends up looking incredible for some reason. The animators are just like, oh, Chozo's my favorite character. He's gonna get all the budget. Like right there, that's proof. We're just switching to black and white. Anytime Chozo lifts his blood laser beam, you know it's gonna be peak. Yeah, like I said earlier, this is just that gaggle of weirdos we saw earlier walking to the Star Room to talk to Tengen. This is the furthest that we've seen thus far. This... My God, does she look good. This sequence right here happens around chapter 150-ish. Maki versus the Zenin clan. And what I absolutely adore by this is that you can tell that they're trying to do like a Kill Bill thing. Based off how the sequence is lit, there's like light up squares under Maki. And you can tell they're trying to make Maki Kill Bill and all of these guys, the crazy 808s or whatever they were called in Kill Bill 1. But there's another one of those moments where you can tell that they're letting the directors direct, as the adaptation of the manga to the anime is absolutely not one-to-one. Well, yes, you're probably gonna hit all of the major key points. In between those major key points, the director's gonna do basically whatever they want, and I love that. It made season 2 into one of the greatest seasons of anime maybe ever. Yeah, so basically the furthest that we saw in terms of content shown in that trailer is about chapter 153. I mean, we didn't technically see the end of Maki versus the Zenin clan, but if they're showing Maki versus the Zenin clan, then we can assume that that fight gets wrapped up. And that fight gets wrapped up around chapter 153. But that means that that trailer only covered content from chapter 137 to chapter 153 of the manga. That is only 16 chapters. However, if we assume that all of the fights that happen over the course of those 16 chapters are elongated, either through just having more punches thrown or more words said, then maybe, just maybe, JJK could drop its manga burn rate down to 2 chapters per episode of content, which would give us about 8 episodes of anime to watch if only the things shown in that trailer are shown in the upcoming season of JJK. Which is, well, I mean, a little concerning, I guess. However, it's not the craziest idea of all time. JJK Season 1 dropped October 3rd, 2020. JJK dropped July 6th, 2023. So about 2 years and 8 months later. Extrapolating on that same timeline, that would mean that technically Season 3 of JJK shouldn't come out until spring of 2026. Now, mind you, there were tons of reports that came out from people who worked on Season 2 of JJK that the working conditions were hellish inside of MAPPA for those couple of years while they worked on Season 2 of JJK. And while MAPPA has had objectively less things to work on since they dropped Season 2 of JJK than they did while they were working on Season 2 of JJK, still, with a winter 2026 release timeline, we are getting JJK sooner than we should have. And therefore, the idea that we're not getting a full 24-episode season isn't the craziest idea of all time. Because here's the thing, in that trailer, we weren't shown any content from the actual Culling Games arc, which starts in chapter 159. We weren't even shown Hikari, who appears in the Perfect Preparation arc, not the Culling Games arc. Hikari becomes a mainstay in the story around chapter 154, when Yuji, Megami, and Panda invade his underground fighting ring to get him to join the Culling Games. So this could mean one of 2 things. Either, the more optimistic point of view here, is that the trailer was only using the parts of the 3rd season of JJK, which are completed, which are the first couple of episodes, which is why chronologically chronologically, the trailer seems to stop around chapter 153 because everything beyond that just hasn't been completely animated yet, which wouldn't be insane at all, A, considering how MAPPA treats its employees, and B, considering the fact that there is still 4 months before the first episode needs to be dropped, and possibly 6 months until anything not shown in that trailer needs to be aired, and therefore MAPPA could be crunching to try and get the back half of this season animated in those upcoming 6 months. Or 2, and this is the pessimistic way of looking at it, we're only getting 8 episodes of content. Basically everything up until the Culling Games arc is being animated, and then the Culling Games arc itself will get its own season. And as to which one of those realities you want to buy into, well, I can't tell you. It really boils down to your demeanor. So now that you have all the information, what do you think is happening over at MAPPA? Do you believe we're getting a 24 episode season, or you think it's going to be something shorter, like 8 or 12, or maybe even 16 episodes, with the promise of a second core soon to come? Let me know in the comments below, and do I get you down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go pray to the trademark gods that this video doesn't get flagged, which it's almost definitely going to.